I'll. Good evening and welcome everyone to the kickoff of Onyxy Weekend on a very non-spring feeling day here in Charlotte. Thanks to those of you here in the audience live who braved the 40-degree cold and rain to be here with us. So this is my personal favorite, is having the forum that's live where we have people in the room that can add to the discussion and just be here for Pareo, which is so great. So this is a really exciting weekend for us. As always, we are looking forward to our largest crowd ever for Onyxy Weekend, a great weekend of workshops and education. And we have really enjoyed adding the forum to this event in the last few years. It really ties into the mission of what we're doing, which is education, which is sharing ideas, which is opening up the lines of communication for people that might not otherwise get to know each other. And especially, we just came off of HDF Weekend very recently, and as we all know, it's so busy, and even though we're all happy to see each other, we don't get a lot of time for those deeper conversations and to kind of dig in and talk about the things that are important. So we're so happy to have that opportunity to do that today. We do have you'll see we have zhuzhed up our production, and so I want to thank Brian Clanaris, who's with us today, as well as John Shelton, who have done a lot to help us get this production better so we can bring all of this information to a wider audience. I'm going to let Stavro take over for a second. Stavros Karageorge, who is familiar to everyone, I think, and he's going to introduce the panel.
Hello, No, okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our next HDF Forum. I've kind of lost track how many of these we've had, but we've had quite a few of them. They've been very successful, and we think it's a very important piece of the HDF ministry to, as Stacy said, promote education and to work together as directors and dance enthusiasts to reach towards our common goal. So with that, I just want to introduce our panel today. We have our facilitator, who's Stacy Prulis, who already introduced herself. She's the director of competition for HDF. We have Ms. Elena Carriofelido, who is from Thessaloniki. She is one of the instructors that will be teaching this weekend at Onyxy. She's also an HDF judge, so welcome, Rena, all the way from Thessaloniki. We have Ms. Anna Yortsidis, my cousin here, from dance cousin, from Newport News, Virginia, but also from DC area. So she handles two dance programs, the Hellenic Youth Dancers in Newport News, and Visandio with her husband Eris, who's also an HDF judge, who's here with us in the audience. So she'll be talking a little bit about building dance programs with Stacy. I'm Stavro. I don't want to introduce myself. And then next to me, I have Michael Botto here, Sarando Caperones here from Charlotte, musician, dance director. We all love Sarando, know Sarando. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay, and now what has become a time-honored HDF Forum at Onyxy tradition, my cheesy questions for the panel. Are you nervous? Are you nervous? Okay, I'm going to let the newbie Anna go first. Make sure you read it into your mic.
All right. Are you more excited about hot Krispy Kreme donuts or Little Richard's barbecue for Winston 2025? I'm going to have to go with Little Richard's.
That was fun.
That was good.
Oh, Stacy, these cheesy questions are going to be great.
Can I choose yours?
Yeah. Okay, she's fine. You already know which one it is?
No, I don't know.
Oh.
That's fine. That's an easy one. That's silly.
Oh, I get to get the easy one. What was your favorite moment from HDF 2024? Actually, I don't know if it's the easiest. Actually, no, wait a minute. I know exactly what it is. It was Sunday night at the Great Glendia, at the end of the Glendia at HDF. Anybody that stays up late hours like me got to FaceTime with Effie Tholi and play and sing and dance with her. So that was my favorite moment for sure.
All right. If you get one that you know you shouldn't, take the other one.
You know you shouldn't.
Don't
I can't do that one.
Yeah.
What's the best Apocalypse costume you've ever seen, and/or who do you think will have the best costume tomorrow night? The best costume I've seen, I can't say because it would be controversial. One year, I'm pretty sure it was Andrew Babutsadis dressed up as the Little Richard's pig, and I wasn't there for it, but I saw it, so that was good. And I don't know who's gonna. I have a feeling Stavro's gonna have the best costume tomorrow night. I think he's got something up his sleeve.
Okay.
Put a little effort this year.
Because I love Anna so much, and I'm not going to make her do this for her first time, I'm going to let someone from the audience take the last one. Who would like? Oh. Someone from the audience is going to take the last one. I'm saving Rena. Who wants to do it? It's not hard.
Okay. Hello. Okay. If you could magically become an expert on one folk instrument, what would it be?
What is it? You have to answer that. You read it. You gotta read
it. The bouzouki.
Okay, thanks for being good sports, guys. I'm going to make harder ones next year. Okay, just to go over the format of what we're going to do today, we are going to start with a few quick HDF updates, just general program updates, things that are exciting that are coming up that you guys should know about. Then we are going to move into this. The presentations will be in two major parts. So the first one will be about running dance programs and creating dance programs, building them, talking about the challenges, the solutions, things that we face, big communities, small communities, everything in between. And then we'll move in from that to a discussion about research. And I'll explain to you too, we do a director survey at the end of each HDF, and the reason we're doing these two topics tonight is based on the feedback from directors. Those are the things that we keep hearing over and over again that people want to talk about, they want to learn more about, so we'd like to open that discussion here. And that will be mostly with Sarados and Stavro talking about research, and I will handle a lot of the program, and of course with Rena's input, since she's here with us. So for each topic, we will present our prepared notes. We will take questions from the audience. So if you have things that you're thinking about as we are speaking, of course, at the end we'll give you that opportunity. We have the mic here in the room. And then if any of you at home are watching on YouTube, we say hello to you too. I should have welcomed you at the start. But if you're watching from home, we would love for you to submit your questions as well. And you can do that through our Instagram account at HDF Weekend, and you can DM us on that page. So from there, let's start talking about programs. Oh, sorry, I'm just kidding. We're going to start with HDF updates. First, directors. Some of you already noticed this because you are HDF portal stalkers, but I get it. There are the events results have been posted. The reason I haven't actually spoken about it via email to you yet is because we were having some technical issues with what was being actually posted. What is on there now is valid and hopefully helpful to you. Your scores and comments are all visible on your page. So you can go there and look at them. If you have any questions, we can talk about that next week, and I'll send a proper email out with the email addresses of all of our judges, their home addresses, and all the things that you need to stalk them. And so just kidding. But we hope you'll find all of that very helpful. Also, the gallery is almost complete. You'll be able to see all of your performances from the videographer on the website. If you go to the gallery page, there is a link to all the media there, and you'll be able to see that. Group photos will be posted shortly, so you can look out for that as well. And I'll let Stavro talk about something that's coming up that's really exciting.
Okay, I have two exciting things to announce, it looks like. So the first one, in the spirit of education and continual knowledge that we're all pushing here with HDF, we have decided that we would like to, as an HDF organization, extend sponsorships for workshops. So we'll be providing a stipend for anybody that'd like to do a public workshop for groups in their community. So with that, there's a simple fill form that you fill out on the website. On the HDF website now, there's a tab that says HDF workshops where you can fill it in. And Stacy, I don't know if you want to say what's included with all of that.
Right. If you fill out that form, we'll get back to you within 2 weeks. This is for any workshop that would happen in the 2024 calendar year. So anything now through December, you would receive a $1,000 stipend for your event, as well as publicity through all of the HDF channels, so email, social media. You'll be able to use our logo, and we'll just help you. And to be honest with you, even if you just needed help building an event, we're so happy to do that. So if you have something that's already ready to go, great, go ahead and fill out the application. If you don't know where to start and want to just sort of build something like an Onyxy weekend or similar, or start smaller, please reach out. We would love to help you. It's a really great way to invigorate their community and to kind of pull from people locally or even farther away. So.
Yes. And our other major announcement from HDF, which we did announce at the award ceremony, is our next Odyssey trip. It's going to be next year. The dates officially now are going to be February 21st to March 4th, 2025. It will be during Apokris from Signopempti through Katara Leftera in the Thessaloniki and Ceres area. I want to thank Rena, Kyriako Moisidis, and Yania Marantidi, and the entire Kiklos group, the group that came from Greece that performed this year at HDF. They're helping us and are partnering us and providing an extraordinary program. They've spent quite a bit of time working on it ever since HDF, and we've been in constant communication. I'm personally excited to go, so I'm like, can this year pass so we can go to the next year? But for that, the applications will be open in April with a decision by June, so that everybody can make proper arrangements. So it's coming up. So
Thank you. We'll also do a forum at that time, similar to what we did for the kids, whenever that was last year. Right. Oh, yeah. This is for directors, so 21 and up would be eligible for this trip. And we'll have a forum with details when those applications open, so that everyone's ready to go. Okay. So now we're going to talk about programs. So this whole presentation was really, as I said, born from a lot of discussion, that not just even from the director's survey, but also just from conversations. I'm in a very fortunate position to get to talk to many directors. Many of you are in this room right now, but I hear from them throughout the year what their challenges are, and I feel like frustrations and maybe even some misconceptions about how to approach and why certain challenges are what they are. So I'll try to explain from my perspective. One thing that I hear a lot is, I'm representing a really small community. We're at a disadvantage, and how do we overcome that? Are there ways that we can approach that that give us a leg up? And so, personally, I represent a big community, probably the biggest that's at HDF here in Charlotte. We're very fortunate. We have over 1,000 families in our community, and a lot of dancers. So this year we took 7 groups to HDF. We have a festival program that has almost 400 kids. So when I hear small communities, I totally understand those challenges, but then I think about our own ones here that are in a totally different category. And so it's really interesting to have those conversations and to understand where people are coming from. So I decided to do, in preparation for this, a very non-scientific survey. And so I reached out to directors that represent sort of small, medium, and large communities. And in order to do that, it was important, obviously, to define what those sizes mean. So for purposes of these questions, small would be under 300 families, medium between 300 and 600, and then large over 600. This is a picture actually from our festival, which was super fun. We always do a dance in the Platia for that. So talking to those instructors, I brought all of the data together, and we made this little fancy diagram here. And so you'll see the small communities, the directors that represented those, these are the issues that came up the most. The fact that they have a wide range of ages in one group, which can be challenging, right? One of them had from 12 years old up to late 20s. Access to good research, parent education, clergy and parish support, all really valid things. On this other side, I lumped the medium and large together because a lot of those were very similar. So oversight, quality control, if you have a million groups, who's making sure that things are going well, that they're adhering to materials the right way. Scheduling and space, big one that I can speak to here. There's just a lot going on, and we only have a limited amount of space to work with, so scheduling and space constraints are really problematic. Having enough volunteers to run everything, and then of course just the administrative burden of getting everything done. You'll see in the middle there are things that everyone's kind of worried about, right? Fundraising, competing with other activities. Kids that we teach these days are super busy, and we all know that. They have so much going on, and I think we probably are all in the same boat that when those kids have soccer or basketball, usually dance comes after. So I think that's a challenge that we all face. And then rising event costs. I mean, life in general is expensive. HDF has gotten expensive along with all of that, and so that is still something that's come up quite a bit in my discussions, and especially on this little non-scientific survey. So what struck me about putting all of this together was that the issues here on the left for the small communities harkened me back to what I felt like in the old, 20 years ago here in Charlotte. We were still a large community then, but our program was new. So it wasn't that we were small, but those are the challenges that I think a lot of newer communities face newer programs face when you're just trying to get going. It's hard to have clergy and parish support when they don't know what this is all about, right? Before your priest has even been to an HDF, let's say, and seen that. Parent education, that doesn't happen overnight. That takes time. So if you're a new program, that's very difficult to just have quickly. Access to good research, really, that takes time as well. So these are things that struck me, again, as not just small, but these are new program issues that I think are very important to talk about, but I think we can have solutions that we're going to talk about next that will sort of help everyone along. Wide range of ages together, that one, that is what it is. We were like that growing up. Anna and I, fun fact, grew up together in Newport News, and my sister and her were literal babies in the crib together. So, for an example, when we were, our youth group had there was like a 6-year spread, yes. Right? Yeah. I would say it was from like 11 to 18. Yeah, 18. For sure. Okay, so do you have any challenges that I may have missed? Anna is a great resource because she represents right now currently a smaller community. Newport News is still small, and then Mizantio is big. You guys, Falls Church has a very big community, so you're at the two ends of the spectrum, but running them both simultaneously, so yeah.
I think you hit everything. Oh, sorry. I was saying I think you hit everything with that. So.
Does anyone in the audience want to call out anything that you think that you're dealing with that was not on here? Ooh, okay, we have a good list then. All right, so let's talk about some solutions. So the questions that I asked these directors were, A, give me 3 to 4 challenges you face, which is reflected in that last slide. And then the next question was, tell me 2 or 3 things that are working. What's helping you improve? What's helping you grow? And so this is a compilation of those answers as well as things that personally have worked for me, and then Anna as well. We're going to talk about some of the details, and this is hopefully going to be helpful to people. So building a strong team and developing young directors. So build a strong team, develop young directors. Your team is, however you're structured. Here in Charlotte, we have a dance board, and then our team includes, for festival, 36 festival instructors. We had half of that, 15, I think, for HDF. So, you have to build that strong team. You have to keep those people engaged and open that communication with each other. Developing young directors is something I did not do a good job of early on, and then I realized that we were getting to a point, and it was like you were going to fall off a cliff because things were going great, and then all of a sudden people were going away to school and then nothing was happening, and then the people who were left behind were still doing all the work. So I think now what's really great, and I'm looking at John Michael over here. He's literally doing everything. He just graduated high school last year, and he's taught the kindergartners for festival, and he's already teaching an HDF group. And so I think over time, that took a long time. I mean, I've been doing this in Charlotte for 20 years, and now we have that sort of cycle, and I think you probably.
So back when I lived in Newport News full-time, one of the things that I would do is when some of the high school kids would come to me and say, hey, can you sign this form saying that I do community service for the church? And I said, sure, you're now teaching the Footdocular Little Dancers. And so, having those high school kids go in and teach the 5- and 6-year-olds dance class to get those community service hours. And they ended up loving it, and it really gave them a passion for dance and to keep going. What's great about Newport News is we have several directors, Bobby Garafalis being the head of the Newport News program, but several directors that are involved and working with the kids. And that's important, to have a strong team and a group that's willing to work together. We do, meetings with the directors, a Zoom meeting to talk things over. It's a little bit harder in Northern Virginia. With Vizanthio, we have such a large community, but it's also a transient community. So we might get a director for a couple of years, but then their job takes them traveling somewhere else, or they move away. So we have more trouble keeping consistent directors with Vizanthio because of that. And I can think of a couple that are no longer directing at Vizanthio. And so right now I think we have 4 total that help with the Vizanthio program, and we have 4 dance groups in that program. So it's a little bit more difficult with Northern Virginia being so transient.
We can't forget about our costume people. Key to have a good costume person, because I don't like doing that. So, okay, next. What's next? Encourage participation at HDF and start them young. This came up a couple of times from other responses. From other directors, and I think it's actually so true when you think about it. When you encourage not just groups to come to HDF, but when you encourage your community to come, that really gets people that buy-in, because they realize how special it is, and they get excited, and they want to, they kind of get that bug that we all get when we leave, and then we're like, ooh, next year, and we're already thinking about it. So I do think, and for us, for a long time, for Charlotte, because we were big and we didn't know how to handle so many groups going, we would only take high school. And now we take down to 3rd grade, and it's so much better. We have our teachers for our little ones here tonight, and I think they're so excited, right? They're super excited. So. Too excited. Okay, next. Establish a curriculum and keep organized, accessible archives. This is something, God, I don't even know what year it was, Saraldo, that we, it's been a while. And so, when was it? Say it? 2015. Yes, I remember that with Charlie. Shout out to Charlie Cleto. He was there too. I remember. So, and this is, again, I'm going to speak to what we do here in Charlotte that's worked so well. We have a grade level curriculum. So we have 2 distinct programs. We have people that register for our festival, our annual church festival, and then the HDF kids. But the ones that dance for festival, we have a grade level curriculum. So each grade from kindergarten through 12th has a specific area of Greece that they will learn from. The kindergartners do like a basic, just kind of like introduction dances, and then up from there, and the idea being that by the time you graduate, if you've been part of the program all those years, you'll get a really good taste, a taste of Greece, if you will, and you'll kind of understand, at least very fundamentally and in a very simple way, the nuances of styling and hearing the music differently. But what we do on top of that is keep really good archives. We use Google Drive because I love it, and it makes sense to me. So that's where we house everything. So every time we do a workshop, every time we have someone come, every time we have Anixi and we have music, anytime someone personally goes and does something and has videos, it all gets put into the Google Drive in the appropriate folders, and that way it's accessible to anyone who needs it, and then we can just share it very easily with our instructors. I don't know how you guys do yours. You might want to talk about that.
So when it comes to establishing a curriculum, we don't necessarily have a set thing that each group is going to learn from, but we do try to have like a 2-year plan. We like to think ahead and think, okay, what are we going to be working on this year and what are we going to be working on next year? I think that's important too because it ties into, putting money towards costumes. If you're going to purchase costumes, you want to know that they're going to get used for the next couple of years. So when it comes to fundraising and purchasing costumes, you want to have that plan of, if I'm going to spend this money, are they going to be used? So we try to have a 2-year plan set out for establishing the curriculum, and then we archive everything in Google Drive as well. So I like to have my folders to where I can just click on the name of the village or the island that we're working on and go from there.
That's great. Okay, next. Patience and consistency equals trust. My husband Dean's in the room, and I think he can tell you that early on in my journey with Holy Trinity Dance, I had a lot more stress. And I think that came from trying to win everyone over so hard. It was like no one understood, kind of to that point from earlier. If they haven't seen it, if they haven't experienced it, if their kids haven't lit up because they're loving it, how do they know? I mean, but it was frustrating for me because I already knew and I wanted everyone else to get there. So that takes patience and consistency, and it truly can take years. And I think ways to build that, at least for us, consistency in the sense of our calendar. I think everyone kind of knows now what to expect. We have HDF in January, we come back, we might have take a quick breath, and then registration opens, and we have Onyxy, and then we prepare all summer for our festival, which is in September, and then right after that, we're in full HDF season. So kind of everyone knows now what that feels like. We're very good about communication. We write good emails, and we make sure that everyone is on the right group me, and I think we're constantly sort of reinforcing what our priorities are. And so I think those things have really helped for people. They know they can count on it at least. And so I think that's definitely helped over time.
Yes, I will say for churches that have had programs for a long time, this comes easier, right? Having grown up in Newport News when I started directing and I was only 21 years old, I already had the trust from the community because they knew me. I grew up there. It was much, much harder when I moved to Northern Virginia. Falls Church did not have a dance program before we came there. We founded the program in 2012, and nobody knew who we were. They didn't have a reason to trust us. They weren't engaged in Greek dancing before that, so they kind of thought, why should I rearrange my schedule to come? And it's taken a long time, I think, to gain that trust and get the community to support us. But for the first few years, it was really a struggle. And we're still struggling. Even with 770 families in Falls Church, we still only have about 30 kids and 34 adults in our dance program.
Yeah, that takes time for sure. And that's what I would say to small/new communities that are feeling that way. They don't have that parish clergy support. It will come. If you do a lot of these things, I really believe that they will come. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility. Even if there are people who are averse to it, I think if you get the community behind it, then people can't ignore it.
Can I add one thing to that?
Please, yeah.
I was just going to say a few years ago, I can't remember what year it was, but Stacy and I serve on the executive committee of HDF, and we sat down and really worked on our mission statement, and we changed our mission statement basically to make HDF a family event. And I think that a lot of communities like Charlotte is a perfect example of this, that have embraced that new mission statement when we started and making it a family event where from younger ages are coming. That's what's helped build that trust and help build that buy-in. So not to plug in for everybody to come to HDF, but I really do think that if you buy into that whole thing and get people to buy in from a young age, encourage your parents to take all the kids there as opposed to them being chaperoned or whatever, and make it truly a family event, and not only just a family event within your nuclear family, but the entire church family, the Greek family of the entire metropolis, and now really beyond. I really think it's jump-started a lot of things, and I think that's why we've seen a lot of growth, especially more recently.
No, absolutely. Okay, moving on. We have, I'm going to actually give a shout out to Christina Paparis out in Omaha. She brought this point up. We used to do this in Charlotte. We haven't done it in a while, but they have a really strong code of conduct. So as just to give you a little bit of context, Christina is the director of the Omaha dance program. They have in their whole community, not the dance program, their whole community is 100 families, so small for sure. They brought 2 groups very far to come to Orlando this year, did very, very well, and they have a very vibrant, great culture already being established. She kind of highlighted that their code of conduct and accountability for the kids has really jump-started the support of dance, because they basically require their kids to be, if they want to participate in dance, they also have to be in Goya, they have to come to Sunday school X number of times, so they have requirements in order to do it. And she said that's really, the church family has seen how much it boosts participation and how much it's making the church better. And she said it's been one of the best things that they did for their community. So we did that years ago here, and to be quite honest, I mean, I let it go because the administration can be hard. Someone's got to look over that. But I think it's a great way for a smaller community to get things going.
I would agree. So when I started directing in Newport News, I got a lot of pressure to make sure that the kids were going to Sunday school, attending church before practice, and holding them to those standards that they can't just come for dance practice. We also, in Newport News, make sure that they sign up to work the festival, 2 shifts to volunteer at the festival. So that's something else that we want to make sure that they are giving back to their community, volunteering their time. I will say the larger community with Falls Church, it's much harder to keep track of that administratively. I think it's easier to do that in a small community that has a lot less going on. Falls Church, too, a lot of families are driving 45 minutes to get there. So it's hard to say, we need you to participate in this, this, and this, because it's such a large area that our church serves. So to get everyone to even come to dance practice is a struggle sometimes.
Right.
So
What I think happens, though, and what's happened for us, even though we don't enforce it in that same way, it sort of just became the way it is. We don't really have a problem with kids. Our Sunday school classes are very full, and right, we have Sunday school teachers here. I don't think we have a problem with. I think if it became a problem, we might have to go back to it. But I think it just becomes part of the culture.
right.
Which helps. Oh, right.
Yes,
Good point,
that
Marina.
helps.
Especially when you have dance practice right after church, right after Sunday school. So, yeah. Okay, next on the list. Community engagement in your parish and beyond. Shout out to Nick Colesis for bringing this one up, and I thought that was a very good call. He was talking about how in order to get more exposure and to give the kids more opportunities to practice, and he does represent a small community in Miami, they have done a lot of community performances, and so they've sort of made a name for themselves as people who are willing to give back. It gives, again, the kids an opportunity to do more, but it sort of solidifies their place in the community, which just adds excitement, I think is a great thing. And also in your parish, I think that one thing we did last year, we sort of had a guest star day, and not everyone that works with your kids has to be an expert in dance. So we had a dad, I just happened to be at a wedding, and I saw this one kid's dad dancing Samiko, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that guy could dance, he's so good. And he doesn't teach dance or anything like that, but I'm like, can you just come and like work with the boys just to like show them how it looks to move, and so that was really fun. And then you have the this who's so and are part of that, and it makes, I guess the point is drawing people in who wouldn't necessarily be part of it, but to make it truly a community program. Right. Network building, kind of like what we're doing now. Fellow directors, researchers, costume experts, you know how beautiful that is, and that's the point of all of this, really. When it comes down to it, dance is about connection and about people, and growing that network and growing our family and all of these things. These are the most beautiful parts of what we do, but also the most helpful in building and making things better. So don't be afraid to reach out to someone you've never reached out to before. I think most of us are so we've all been helped along the way, and so willing to give back and kind of pay that forward. So, and that will help you in a lot of categories of your dance program, not just with learning dance, but with so many things, just advice and one thing leads to another for sure. Mix it up, varied voices in the classroom. This speaks more to what helps improve from on the dance side. So if you're the only person that's always in front of your kids, they're either going to dance exactly like you, or they're going to take one thing that you did and make that. You'll just have 20 little clones. And so if as much as you can, bring other people into the classroom, show them footage of other people, do workshops, bring them to places, encourage them to dance and get into line at HDF or Glendia, where they can actually experience living dance. And I think if I had answered that question, I would have said the Effie Thovia moment. But also I would have said Friday Nights Glendy, which I walked in and I actually couldn't believe. It was so moving, actually, to see how many kids. Remember, we sat there and we were like, look at this. There were kids everywhere. It was so, so awesome. And so, varied voices. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, right? Budget planning. This is a big one, and it's at the end, and it's really important, and we're going to talk about it and talk about some ideas. I know Anna has a lot to say on this too, but what I will say is that if you're doing all of this other stuff, the budget becomes a little less of a stressor because it sort of comes. Once you have people who have buy-in and are excited, not that they're just going to start throwing money at you, but it makes it easier for people to support you. And so I really do believe that all of that actually comes before, because there are a lot of creative ways to get what you need without having to have big money in your program. So I'm going to let Anna, because what I love about Anna's perspective is that she can talk about fundraising in two different size communities and what's worked well, and they do a really great job, I would say.
So, so I work with Newport News, which is a very small community, and then Bizancio, which is part of a very large community. And fundraising has looked very, very different in those two communities. So in Newport News, our dance program is one of the vendors at the festival. So we have a smaller fall festival, a larger spring festival, and the dance group has their own booth. And as vendors, the church does get a portion of it, and we get the rest. We do baklava sundaes and frappes at our booth and make money that helps purchase costumes, pay for musicians, all of those things. We also, a long time ago, I got mayonnaise jars from the restaurant nearby and taped a picture of our cutest little dancers, the 5-year-olds, on the mayonnaise jar and put them at the bar. And we made so much money, we started putting up tip jars everywhere at the festival. Now the tips are automated through, with the credit cards, you can leave a tip. The tips are so much now that the dance group gets a portion of it. Other groups also get a portion of it, but the tips at the festival were literally a huge part of our budget for a long time. So those are the big fundraisers that are done. Of course, putting on a dance, that's always a great way to make a fundraiser. Spaghetti luncheons, breakfast after church, especially if there's a General Assembly meeting or something that people need to stay after, offer to do that spaghetti luncheon. We have found that if you don't ask for a set price, you get more money. So if you say $10 for the spaghetti luncheon, or you just say give a donation, you end up getting more money if you just ask for a donation for those. So that's very helpful. With Falls Church being such a large community, there are so many other groups and organizations. We're fighting for space. So when we wanted to put on a dance and we look at the calendar, they're like, well, there's this weekend and this weekend, and we had trouble finding the space to actually put on a big dance to raise money. And of course, the families were already involved in Apokriatico, which Greek school had, Family Fun Night, which the preschool had. So the parents were saying, we're tired of fundraising. We tried to do some smaller things like selling chocolate bars. We even did different flavored olive oils and vinaigrettes, a sale with that, which actually did really, really well. But the parents just kept saying, we're so tired of fundraising, we're so tired of fundraising. So I said, okay, I said, well, this is our tuition now. If you don't want to fundraise, I can raise the tuition to this for the dance program, and then you don't have to fundraise. And the parents all agreed. They were like sold. They would rather pay a higher tuition than fundraise. And I'm okay with that. I mean, we're all busy, right? So if parents don't want to commit to another thing and are willing to pay a little bit more in tuition for the dance year, great.
I think that comes down to, we talked about this a little bit before, it comes down to knowing your community, right? What's the
Absolutely.
personality of your community, and what are people willing to do or able to do
Right.
to make it work? So yeah, here in Charlotte, we're kind of are down to, I mean, Onyxie is benefits our program, of course, and then the only other thing we do fundraiser-wise during the year is our HDF luncheon. So we're fortunate, we have our musicians come early, the ones that come with us to HDF, and so during that time we have a luncheon for the community, which kind of serves a double purpose. It is, or triple purpose, really. It's a fundraiser. It is a great dress rehearsal for our kids, and it's an opportunity for family members or friends who can't travel to the actual event to see the kids, and that's become kind of a nice tradition for us. It's kind of a stressor in those last days before we leave, but it works. So those are all good ideas. Okay, Culture Club. So this is my takeaway from all of this. The greatest driver of success and growth. What do you think I'm going to say? Anyone? I'll take call out answers. Nobody? Okay. Here we go. Dedicated individuals who are committed to creating a positive, enriching culture around culture. So to me, I know this probably goes for every one of you in this room. If you don't have people who are truly dedicated and passionate that are going to drive things forward, it's probably not going to go super great or as great as it could. You could Band-Aid it and it'll move along. But if you're trying to really grow, you need at least a couple of people who are going to push forward. And once that spark is ignited from those, couple of people to more, then you have lots of dedicated people, and we're very fortunate here. We have that. But to me, if you have those people. And this is all about culture, right? But you have to also create your program's culture in order to get people to buy in. And I think that's probably, for me, the most important thing. And so that's the end of what we have here for that. Thank you. Thank you. Huh? Yeah. Thank you to Anna. I really appreciate you doing this alongside. Thanks. Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Okay, right. So we're gonna take a second and take any questions or comments even. I really would love, there are a lot of directors and instructors in this room, so if any of you have things that you kind of think would be nice to add, or just questions or things that you think are important, here's your chance. There's a real mic there for you to stand up. I don't know, Dean, you're the closest. Are you afraid? No. You can ask a question. Do you have a prepared question? Oh.
Not so sure if it's related to everything we spoke of, but hello, esteemed panel. I represent a group of enthusiastic novice dance spectators. And our question tonight is, what are some things that a novice spectator can observe during a performance in order for us to give a more educated evaluation?
I'm not going to answer. No, I did not set that up. But I have to say this year, so our daughter, Katerina, came to HDF this year, and she sat backstage with me quite a bit. She was helping, and we were watching performances, and so Dean's texting me. He's like, is this right? Is this good? I think this or this, that. And I'm like, wow, he's actually gotten pretty good at evaluating over time. So I think the first answer is keep watching and keep or live with someone who's obsessed. That probably helps too. I don't know. What should a novice person be looking at first? What do you think is most important? Salvador, I know you have an answer for that, or Anna does.
So I don't know. I think when you're looking at something, the first thing you notice is stage presence. Are the kids enjoying themselves on stage? Are they having fun? Are they smiling? Do they look engaged with the music? I think that's the first thing that stands out, right? Because I feel like before you even look at someone's feet, you're looking at their faces. And so I think the biggest indicator is if their facial expression is going, oh my God, I just messed up, or if they're smiling and having a good time. If they're smiling and having a good time, you're like, well, they think they're doing it right, so cool. But I think, I don't know, I think you get a feeling, right? You look at it and you look at it and you're like, that looks really hoppy, and it doesn't look like it should be hoppy. I think you start to get a feeling, and of course you ask the people next to you, right? Like, do you know this material? Do you know, and I feel like you learn a lot from just sitting in the audience, asking the people next to you, having a conversation with them. But honestly, I say look at the dancers and look at their faces. If they're engaged with the music and they're loving it, that's your first indicator that, makes a strong performance. To me, that's the most important thing. I think the kids should love what they're doing and be engaged.
So here's a submitted question from the, whatever this is called, the live feed chat thing. The question is, do you ever recommend taking the group out of the umbrella of the parish, which I would assume that means outside of the auspices of the church, and making it a private group to escape limitations or obstacles that may be popping up? Okay, gave me a hard one here. You want me to answer that? Yeah, I'm going to have somebody else answer this too. But I will say initially, no, I don't necessarily recommend that that's any sort of appropriate answer. I think that if we're looking at the spirit within the presentation that we just saw, it's about positivity, building a team together within your parish and your community. The church is a driving force in getting our kids together. HDF is a church event, and if your focus is to come to HDF, the church is a part of it. But not only that, the church and our religion are so interconnected with our traditions, and I don't think we should look at them exclusively separate. That's my 2 cents, but anybody else want to add to that? Yeah, you answer?
The only thing I would add to that, I think that was a perfect response. And the only thing I would say is that if you really are struggling, and I know people have like legitimate challenges sometimes within their parish, I think keep reaching out to people who might have good solutions. Because I think most of us have probably dealt with at least something similar and overcome, hopefully. So I would say just reach out and look for support first within our sort of network of people, and I think you can get through it. Okay. Oh yeah, Christina. Yeah, please.
Hello. I have 2 questions, so I'll give the first one. For tuition for programs, what does that look like? Because from my home parish experience, there's a lot of pushback from parents where they look at it as it's a ministry of the church, so why do I have to be giving money? So that should be coming within the budget of the church. So can you explain maybe from your respective programs what that looks like?
So in Falls Church, we don't take any money from our parish. We do our own fundraising, the tuition that pays for the cost. So I explained to parents the cost of dry cleaning the costumes, the cost of purchasing costumes. That's what tuition is paying for. And it's expensive. At the end of every dance season, I have a $3,000 dry cleaning bill that I have to pay. So explaining to them and being transparent about what the costs are for their kids to wear costumes and to get them cleaned and to keep them in good shape, too. They have to go to the seamstress for different fixing. We charge $250 per dancer for Visantio. Parishes that do more fundraising probably charge less, maybe more. I know in Newport News it's a lot less, but the parents all step in and do a lot of fundraising there, so we don't need to offer as much tuition. But I think it's just really important to explain to them, the church has a lot of expenses on their own already. We can't take more from the church. They're already giving us the space to practice. So think of what they pay to do travel, soccer, and all those other things. They spend a lot of money on those uniforms too, so.
Just to add to that, I agree with what Anna's saying. I head up the Winston-Salem dance program with alongside Lisa Siokis, and we also do not receive any direct monies from the church. I've also been the church treasurer for the last 3 years, so it really puts into perspective a little bit how tight church budgets are. So I think education's a big thing, and like Anna said, just saying flat out, we're not here to make money. We're here to provide something for your kids, and this is laying out those costs. You want because every parent wants their kid to wear a new costume every year. I can promise you that, because they make sure to let you know. So if that's the case, this is how much a costume costs. This is how much it costs to clean, and so on and so forth. So I mean, look, in my opinion, I think a lot of these things at the end of the day is about education and transparency.
Yeah, and just the last thing I would add to that is that, again, back to the point about building culture, and that takes time. There was a time when our kids that danced for festival only had to pay $5 to do that, and there were still complaints because it was to the point of it's a ministry. Why are we paying at all? That's been a long time, but that was a legitimate. I mean, that was an actual complaint. People don't say that anymore because they get it, and so that again takes time and consistency and communication, all those things.
Another question that just came up since we're talking about tuition is asking what our recommendation for tuition price would be for a year September through June. The school year.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is that it really depends. I think you should create a budget. And I know I have one and be very happy to share the shell for that. I'm sure others do as well. But I think you have to sort of look at what are your numbers? What are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to, have live music for anything? Are you trying to buy costumes? Which, again, we didn't touch on this, but a great way to save on costumes is either renting or getting into this little barter thing. We've bartered many times. We've bartered. Yeah, in fact, I think I have a lot of your costumes hiding up there somewhere. But anyway, there are creative ways to do that, and so I wouldn't even want to throw out a number because I have no idea who that's from or what their details are. But I would encourage you to create an actual budget.
Oh. I said it comes back to knowing your community too. What you think is affordable for your community, what you think is fair for your community. So you really have to gauge, again, if they're willing to fundraise or not. So I think to say this is the price it should be is difficult because every community is different.
Thank you. Okay, second one. So personally, I'm going through a transition where I'm going from a very, very established dance program, more so with Newport News, but also semi with my home parish in Norfolk, now to Michigan, where there is a semi-established group, but from what I can tell from all the community, it seems very closed off. There's not a lot of openness to want to expand their horizons, to come to something like HDF, to even learn technique that's better. So what would you give advice-wise for that? Because I even know people who are very, very experienced instructors, and they're struggling with it. So what would you recommend or have any advice?
Are they mostly young kids? What's the demographic?
Actually, there's the parish that has a very active dance program. I would say they go up to adults. I actually got to watch their adult group perform at the festival, and it was promising. But obviously I would love to get involved to dance, but also I'd want to get involved to teach. And I don't know the roadblocks that would come in the way of someone new coming into an established program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, maybe for you to make it less personal, if it's feasible to bring an outsider, to do a workshop, something small that everyone could come to. That way it's not you trying to force your way in as the new person. Yeah. And you're saying, I'm willing to help organize this. I think it would be great just to jumpstart. I don't know. That's just one thought. I don't know.
No, I kind of was going to jump off of what you said there. I think one of the main things would be probably bringing maybe somebody out to provide an experience and using the network we're sitting in a network room here, using this network here. Everybody's here to help to, whether it's HDF or Newport News or Brena from Thessaloniki, anybody would be willing to come and help provide a particular experience. The other thing I'd suggest, if your goal is to go to competition or something like that, find the few people, maybe they're not the majority, that may be interested, and just bring them to participate in experience, because the people that participate are going to become your biggest advocates. When we talk about the buy-in in communities like we talked about earlier, now have, like Charlotte has all these younger groups that come, it's because of them participating in Charlotte HDF in 2015. They finally had more groups here because HDF was local, and there was so much more buy-in from HDF after that, after they actually saw it and experienced it. So that would probably be my suggestion. If you're, I mean, you're probably planning to come to HDF, I would assume, so find a couple people that you're close with that you know, would want to, that would be interested in it, and that you think you could build a team with. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year, but you take this first year and just get them to buy in. It's one thing to talk about it and to see it on video. It's another thing to have that feeling that you experience when you're there. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, just brief. I would say I think once you get them there, I think it'll be sold, and you'll have that driving force. And it won't be just you fighting to grow the program. It'll be 4 y'all, 5 y'all, and that'll turn to 10. Stavros said it right. 2015, I think, was a huge year here in Charlotte. It really changed our program.
I could say the same thing. The years that HDF's been in Winston-Salem, those were big, like, landmark years for our program. And best case example is probably Orlando. Orlando actually didn't participate in HDF until the first HDF was in Orlando. And now they are the most consistent and largest group in Florida. So.
All right, last call for in-room questions. Thank you, Christiana. So glad you came all the way from Michigan. And your husband's first Onyxy. Yes. Yours too, that's right. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I thought, I appreciate your comments.
I don't have any other questions on this, and then we'll move on. No.
Yeah, I mean, if anything comes up, we'll do another Q&A at the end if anything comes up in your mind from there. From here, we're going to move into the dance research portion of the evening. Saraldo's going to kick it off. Saraldo, most of you these days are just used to seeing him with his gaida or his lira, hanging out on stage playing music. But if you know him a little more, you would also know that he's done a great deal of personal research. He's put it on stage with Trilos several years ago, but also the material that he's researched has also been used by many other groups now over the years, and he's very generous about what he knows and the way he's gone about getting it. And so I think he's a wonderful person to kick off this part of it, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
All right, thank you, Stacy. So I'm just going to briefly just talk about dance research, kind of what it is, what it's not, how to go about it. We'll talk a little bit about firsthand research, but that's a little, I'll talk about that later, but it's more not practical, but kind of how to get more secondhand research, because firsthand research is really hard to go to Greece and kind of have that time to do that kind of stuff. So again, briefly, so what is dance research, where to start and proceed, how to conduct, and then how to kind of present it, interpret it, and then present it on a stage. So, what is dance research? So, what it's not. I'll briefly talk about that. So, it's not going on YouTube and then just seeing a performance from, HDF or FDF, a USA-based group, a Greece-based group, and then just copying that show or taking choreography from that show. That's not really what's considered dance research. Or going on YouTube and seeing a performance of Alatis or Elinon Dromena or whatever those things are and just copying it, okay? And I know a lot of the HDF judges say that a lot of people put as their sources just like one link to YouTube, and that's their research. It's got to be a little bit more extensive than that. Not saying that's wrong, just that it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the whole puzzle, okay? So different types of research are first-hand research, second-hand research, and then kind of gathering other sources. So first-hand research basically is where you go to the area, you meet the locals, you document their dancing, you dance with them, you document their songs, you get the whole feel for their paratasi firsthand. I would say, of course, it's probably the most accurate form of research. It's the most time-intensive and the hardest. It's the most accurate because you get that personal experience. There's nothing like experiencing it firsthand with your own eyes, or dancing next to a local, to see their movements, to get a feel for their dancing, their expression. It's stuff you can't see from a video or talk to somebody and and get that information. It's really something that you have to witness yourself, okay? So I know it's hard for us here in the United States to be able to go do that kind of stuff because, you know, you have to leave your daily life and go out there and study. You be there for a couple weeks and whatnot. You know, Greece is beautiful for vacation. So, you know, when you have a few weeks, you know, most people want to go to the beach and just go swimming all day. Nobody wants to go to the Choreo and sit and talk to a yaya for 5 hours about dance research. So anyway, so there are challenges. Yeah, some people do. so there are challenges. Yeah. So that's the first hand, right? Secondhand research is basically gathering information for somebody that has done firsthand research, okay? Example is perfect, like here at Onyxy. We're going to bring instructors that have gone and researched these areas, and then they're going to come and teach these areas to you. So that's a form of secondhand research because you're getting it from somebody that has done the firsthand research, okay? It's a great way. It's the next best way of gathering information. Even though you might not be experiencing it firsthand, you will get a good feel for it. And then, of course, there's other sources, which includes, you know, videos, recordings, reading books, attending seminars, talking to people that you know about the certain area, and I'll go into more detail about that. But, of course, the most common other sources is video, and, you know, on YouTube and whatnot. Okay. So, where to start and how to proceed. So, the first thing I always say, you're inspired by something, and this comes from a personal experience. So, everyone that's going to start doing research has had some exposure to Greek dance, right? No one's waking up in the morning and saying, "Oh, I'm going to do Greek dance research, or I'm going to do Greek dancing today." You know, you've been exposed to it either through the curriculum of a dance program or whatnot. You know, you want to start directing. You have some kind of thing that you love and inspires you, right? So, and it could be something that you've seen at an HDF or an FDF or whatnot. For me, when I was younger, you know, I loved the sound of the gaida. So Thraki really was something that pulled me, and it still pulls to me today. So that's where I focus my sources. And that's what makes me want to go do more research and study it more and get more knowledge about it. So there's something that's going to pull you. Somebody's going to pull you Pirotica, someone's going to do whatnot. So for me, it's Thraki, okay? Everyone's got their kind of thing. So gathering information from various sources. First, videos, audio, books, and articles. So first thing you can do is, of course, start with a video hunt. You know, watching on YouTube is good. Watching on Facebook, just to get a feel of what's out there. Kind of just getting your feet wet and see what's going on. Really dig into the sources that are out there, because there's a lot of good information, you know, but there's also a lot of videos out there that are not good. So it's important to decipher what's a good video, what's not a good video. That's kind of the positive and negative thing of having so much information and content nowadays. I personally like documentaries. I think documentaries are a great source because they have a lot of detailed information. Usually it's got a lot of the locals in it, and they incorporate a lot of the whole area obviously. They don't just talk about the dances, they talk about the songs, the customs, the costumes, the history, and whatnot. If you can't find a documentary, like I mentioned before, and Alatis Yis, Kyriaki sto Chorio, you know, Elinon Dromena, those stuff are really good pieces of information. But one negative thing that you do need to take into account when you're looking at that kind of stuff is that stuff is staged. So you might not get that authentic dancing because it's going to be, you know, that papu or whoever's dancing in front might not dance authentically because he's in front of the camera. He might want to show off a little bit more. So you kind of want to, that's the negative part of having that kind of production. You want to watch videos of raw dancing, you know, of the camera back, you know, where you're barely seeing the guy's legs. It's okay. Like, that's good raw dancing because, you know, and you will experience, you know, you will go through sources like that. But that's where you get a piece of the documentary, you get a piece of the raw footage to kind of started putting a puzzle together, okay? Once you get a good kind of feel for the dancing, then you can move into like the audio portion, the instrumentation, the songs. You can purchase a CD of music of that area. There's a lot of CDs out there, you know, and those CDs usually come with books. Those books are great information for music, for lyrics, when certain songs were played, you know, are they apokryphs, are they wedding songs, a little bit of the history. And the one big thing is that I think we as directors overlook the power of reading books or reading articles, because that is such good information. It makes you it's a different perspective where we just mostly look at videos and just hear stuff. We really do need to read a lot about a lot of these things. Let's see. You can read about their ethima, you can read about their music, their dancing, their costumes, all in there. So just make sure to not overlook that. You know, just like in school where we kind of did research papers, you had to read a lot of sources, right? You didn't watch a lot of videos. You had to read a lot of things. So this is that kind of same concept. So that's kind of those three things. And then you have the attending seminars, like we said here. Attending seminars is a great way to get information. Like, for example, like Onyxy, we're bringing these instructors that have done these firsthand research, and now they're going to bring it to you. You're going to learn it, and then you can take it back to your communities and teach your directors. And it's kind of like a chain of events, right? And there's multiple events like Onyxy out there, especially the ones in Canada that happens every other year in Toronto, Montreal. They bring like eight instructors out, and they just teach a plethora of regions. So those are really good events that you can go and get that kind of information for you. Next one is, again, it might seem simple, but reach out to people that you know. You know, don't be afraid to reach out to people regarding dance information. You know, reach out to your fellow directors that have maybe presented an area, you know, and they can give you more information and open new doors to more communication, to more people, to more connections. People from the HDF judging panel, like we have Adi, we have Rena here, you know, they're always open. I know most of them personally, they're very open to giving you information. Don't be scared to reach out to them, because now they won't only just give you the information that you might need, but they can point you to someone or a source that's good, you know. If they don't know that information, they'll be like, oh, I know this person that knows that information, and that person will be able to go even further and deeper. It's all about connections, okay? So they can give you a book, they can give you videos to look out, and whatnot. The Greek dance world, I'd say, is the Greek dance world, in quotations, it's a tight-knit community. So we all kind of know we all know somebody that is looking for the information that you are looking for. So it's important for you just to not be scared and to really reach out to people, and they'll guide you to the right person or people to get the information that you're looking for, okay? Once you kind of get these kind of sources, like I said, that's how you find these kind of people is through connections. You can look on, if you don't get a connection, you want to do it by yourself, you can look on social media, Facebook. Most villages out there, if you want to do a village, and I'll tie it back to Thraki, Evros, they have Facebook pages. You know, the village of Metaxades. Reach out to that Facebook page on Metaxades and say, hey, I'm a dance director in the United States looking for information. Who can I contact? Who's the director of your local dance groups? Reach out to them, talk to them, get interviews, sources, they'll give you books. So there's ways to connect and get that information even if you can't travel yourself to these areas. With social media, we really do have kind of that connection to be able to talk to anybody, okay? One big tip when you eventually find somebody or find people or talking to people and gathering information, then I always recommend is to ask open-ended questions. Never ask yes or no questions. You won't get a lot of information like that. Always, like, I don't know if this is a good example, but don't ask, do you guys do ethima in your village? That's a yes or no question. Rather you'd word it, what are the ethima you do in your village? And that'll just start sparking more conversation, okay? As far as conducting firsthand research, I'm not gonna go too much into this. I mean, I will, but not too, because it's not as practical, but briefly, when you start making these connections with people, you know, you've reached out to the person you know. You've gone out to the next person, now you've made a connection with somebody in Greece, a local, let's say. And you start bouncing off ideas and getting information, you know, that gives you now a in to go to that area if you ever wanted to go. That person, I bet, most Greek people are very open and will take you under their arms and be your local guide. So they will take you to that yaya that knows 20 songs from the village. They will take you to that papu that's the best dancer. They will say, hey, come, we have a panigiri, Yuko Sadinu. Come, they'll take you to the panigiri, and they'll be like, you know, you see that papu right there, you see that yaya? They're doing the dancing correctly. So once you kind of have that in, then you have that somebody that can kind of guide you while you're there. Then you start getting more and more information. And I was younger back then, but they were like, oh, the Merkanaki likes dancing or whatever. They'll start giving you everything that you want. I mean, it's an open source. So, and one other thing too, I want to make sure that you understand is it's a source that people don't think about is, and this is biased too, but musicians are a really good source for stuff, not just for music, but for dancing. I mean, when I'm playing or whatever, I can pick out who are the good dancers. And kala, I'm young, but the old choreo guy that plays the zurna, he can tell you exactly who's the best dancer. Musicians are always an underrated source of information. Okay, and that's a quote that Jordan Elrod had said a few years ago, and that's always stuck with me. And he's right, because my sources have been through musicians, have been able to connect to a bunch of other people, and I've learned so much from that. So how to interpret and present. So, oh, sorry, yeah, I'll find a click. So how to interpret and present. So the big thing is you always want to use multiple sources, okay? Videos, books, different people. You don't just have to talk to one person. You talk to multiple people if you can. And it's okay if you get conflicting ideas. It's not black and white. There's some gray in the middle as well, okay? So take your research and analyze it. I mean, not sure how many of you guys were science majors back in y'all's college days, but I don't know if you remember those dreaded lab reports that you guys did. You know, there's a conclusion and an analysis section. So really analyze what you've learned and kind of put it all together, okay? One perfect example is of a little bit of analysis is droning in Thraki has always been a controversial topic. So, you know what droning is. I'm assuming most people know what droning is. Right? Droning in Thraki has always been controversial. Do they do a lot of it? Do certain areas do it? Well, if you look at it from a different perspective, the instruments of Thraki all have drones. The guide that has a drone, the lira has a string that's a drone. So it would make sense for vocals to have a drone. Okay, so that's kind of a way to analyze kind of research as well of gathering all that information. So by getting all this piece of information that you've accumulated and whatnot, you can basically put your research puzzle together. Okay. One big thing is to focus on the full picture. Don't just focus on the dancing. The full picture includes the songs, the instrumentation, the costumes, the style of vocalization. You know, there's many aspects that you have to consider when not just researching, but taking that research and then presenting it, okay? Especially with songs, don't just focus on the dancing. Try to find different lyrics, different songs that you could present. You know, me, I've played for many groups at HDF, then, that's what I know a lot. I saw you didn't know a lot. I've played for multiple groups. What'd you say? My research?
She said she's doing research.
Is that what you're doing research? Bravo, I don't know. I've played for a lot of groups at HDF, FDF, and whatnot, and we get presented with the same material all the time. Don't try to find that different dance. It's okay to just find that different song. It makes a difference. So don't just focus on the dancing. Focus on all of it, okay? And also, I'm not big on this, but make sure you do study the costumes. A nice costume can really elevate a performance, and that's something that Adi had actually taught me. That it's when I had a group, I focused on. Well, I had Gigi do all the costumes, but I didn't focus a lot on costumes. However, when you see a group perform with beautiful costumes, it just enhances the whole show. So don't forget about costumes. I'm at fault for that, but I'm just telling you guys not to do that. Finally, presenting. When directing a group and putting your performance together, this performance should be basically bringing your research to life. You know, instead of having a research paper, you're basically putting your research in motion through a performance. So always remember that. And it's okay if your performance doesn't live up to your vision, you know, especially with the younger groups. You know, it's harder for kids to, you know, match your vision. So always remember with what age you're working with and what you're presenting. So, of course, the more complicated material and presentation, you know, you would save it for the group is older. But just remember to present the whole picture. Just don't focus on the dancing. Don't forget about the singing. You know, don't focus on just the ethimo and then forget about the dancing. So there's multiple aspects of it when you're conducting. It's a whole picture. And do not be scared to reach out to people, because if we don't know the information, we know people that do know the information. And if that person doesn't know, the next person does. And you eventually get to where you want. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarado. I did want to take a moment and ask Rena if she has anything to add to this. Rena's done a lot of first-hand research in Greece, lives in Greece, in Thessaloniki, so I figured she'd want to say a few things before we go to the next part.
Θα μου επιτρέψετε όμως να μιλήσω στα ελληνικά, για να είμαι ακριβής. Στο πρώτο κομμάτι, επειδή δεν ζω στην Αμερική, εκεί δεν θα μπορούσα να εκφέρω κάποια άποψη. Ναι. Ευχαριστώ. Στο πρώτο κομμάτι της παρουσίασης, επειδή δεν ζω στην Αμερική, δεν θα μπορούσα να έχω μια πλήρη άποψη για το τρόπο που λειτουργούν εδώ οι ελληνικές κοινότητες. Αυτό που θέλω να σας εθαρρύνω και να προσέξετε και να το τολμήσετε, είναι ότι μπορείτε να προσεγγίσετε τα παιδιά μέσα από το παιχνίδι. Να μην είναι αφιτηρίες ο χορός πάντα. Οργανώστε στις κοινότητες δράσεις, είτε αυτό είναι παιχνίδια, είτε κάποια έθιμα, στα οποία τα παιδιά δεν χρειάζεται να ξέρουν κάποια δεξιότητα. Μπορούν να συμμετέχουν αυθόρμητα. Έτσι θα τους κινήσετε το ενδιαφέρον. Και μπορεί μέσα σε αυτό να εντάξετε και κάτι απλό, έστω και η μουσική. Να γίνει κάτι οικείο για αυτούς. Και να γίνει αφορμή να έρθουν να δοκιμάσουν. Αυτή είναι η δική μου πρόταση. Από ό,τι είδα, τα παιδιά σας έχουν δώσει πολλές ωραίες ιδέες, έτσι ώστε να μπορέσετε να τις χρησιμοποιήσετε και να δράσετε ανάλογα με τις ανάγκες της κοινότητές σας. Αλλά τολμήστε και άλλα πράγματα πέρα από το χορό.
I got some of it. Yeah, το νόημα. So it basically says she doesn't live here, so she doesn't have a good feeling of it every day of how things work here. But she said to engage the kids through παιχνίδια, which is games. That might be an exact translation, but through games, get them to listen to the music. Τι άλλο είπες στο τέλος? Έθιμα through the customs as well, and don't make το πρόβα σαν yeah, don't make the practices just a simple συμμετοχή, is like participation. Bravo.
Ως προς το δεύτερο κομμάτι, 40 το είπες όλα. Ναι. Ναι. Θα ήθελα να συμπληρώσω στο full picture ότι ένα πάρα πολύ σημαντικό κομμάτι είναι η ιστορία και η λογογραφία. Να συμπληρώσω σε αυτό. Γιατί δεν είναι απλά ο χορός. Πολλές φορές ο χορός εκπροσωπεί κάτι, ένα ιστορικό γεγονός. Εκεί θα πρέπει να το μεταφέρουμε, είτε στα παιδιά, είτε στους ενήλικες, είτε στους εφήβους, να ξέρουν τι χορεύουν, γιατί το χορεύουν. Αυτό είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό και αυτό γίνεται με πολύ διάβασμα. Δεν είναι μόνο χορός. Πρέπει να διαβάσετε πολύ, δηλαδή να ενημερωθείτε. Ευτυχώς υπάρχουν πάρα πολύ ωραίες μελέτες και παρουσιάσεις πάνω σε αυτό το κομμάτι που θα συμπληρώσουν το puzzle αυτό.
So she was saying that one important part of dance is history and geography. It's not just dance. Usually dance represents some kind of historical event, you know, and we have to pass that information on to the dancers as to why they're performing it. And there are many performances out there that kind of represent that kind of stuff that you can look on the internet, I guess.
Τα τελευταία 3 χρόνια έχω την τιμή να με καλέσει το HDF και να είμαι κριτής. Και επειδή θέλω πάντα να αντιμετωπίζω με σεβασμό και τους δασκάλους και τους χορευτές, οποιαδήποτε ηλικίας, πάντα διαβάζω και μελετώ το υλικό που μου στέλνουν. Αυτό που γίνεται, η ανάρτηση που γίνεται από το HDF, και είναι πολύ ωραίο που μας ενημερώνεται και έγκαιρα για να μπορούμε να δούμε όλες αυτές τις λεπτομέρειες.
So she said the last 3 years she's had the honor of being an HDF judge, and she always has wanted to treat all the directors and dancers with respect, you know, no matter what the age, and that she always does read the research that is sent from the directors to the judges.
Η πλειοψηφία αναφέρει μέσα το YouTube. Το καταλαβαίνω. για μας στην Ελλάδα είναι εύκολο. Θέλω να κάνω χορούς από τη Θράκη. Θα πάω στη Θράκη, θα βρω τα κατάλληλα άτομα, θα έχω μια άμεση πληροφόρηση. Καταλαβαίνω ότι εδώ στην Αμερική αυτό είναι δύσκολο.
She said the popularity of the populace, or I guess popularity, the most people that do send in research is from YouTube. And it's easier for people from Greece to go do research because she says, you know, if I want to learn dances from Thraki, I can just take a car and drive to Thraki, or, you know, and I'll be there in an hour, or if you're from Thessaloniki, a couple hours, but whatnot. So she understands that it's much easier for people in Greece to have access to that information.
Το YouTube μπορεί να είναι ένα καλό εργαλείο, όμως είναι και μία παγίδα. Γιατί εξαρτάται τι θα επιλέξεις. Θα αναφέρω κάποια παραδείγματα. Όπως σας είπα, μελετώ κάθε τι που μου στέλνετε. Μου είχε κάνει εντύπωση, κάποια στιγμή γινόταν αναφορά σε πηγές από διάφορες σελίδες στο YouTube και ήταν όλες από χορευτικά στην Αθήνα. Δεν είναι αυτό, δεν μπορεί να είναι αυτό έρευνα. Δεν μπορείς να αντλήσεις κάποια συμπεράσματα από ομάδες που μπορεί να είναι πολύ καλές ομάδες και να κάνουν το καλύτερο δυνατό, αλλά δεν είναι από τον τόπο. Δεν θα έχετε τη βοήθεια που θα επιθυμούσατε να έχετε και ούτε το αποτέλεσμα που θα οδηγούσε στο αυθεντικό. Γιατί όταν συμμετέχεις σε ένα διαγωνισμό όπως είναι το HDF, είναι πολύ σημαντικό αυτά που παρουσιάζονται να έχουν το αυθεντικό και την παράδοση σαν βάση τους. Και όχι μία παράσταση.
I feel like those typers in the courtroom that are like this. Okay. She said YouTube is a good tool, but it's also a trap because it depends on what you select. You know, she says, again, that she looks at all the research that is sent, and it has done... How would you translate εντύπωση? Έχει κάνει εντύπωση. Η εντύπωση. Shocking. That's it. Yes, exactly. So it's shocking that a lot of the references that was good. Shocking that there have been references of many the sources that were listed were dance groups of Athens that say doing dances from Thraci, saying that's not research. You know, a dance group from Athens. You can't come to a conclusion with a dance group that's not from that area, especially if you want to get that authentic result. You know, when you participate in a competition like HDF, you want to present the most authentic thing possible.
Η γνώμη μου είναι, όπως ανέφερε και ο Σαράντος, αν μια περιοχή σας κεντρήσει το ενδιαφέρον και θέλετε να ασχοληθείτε, ναι, να δείτε στο YouTube. Ναι, να ρωτήσετε ανθρώπους που μπορείτε να βρείτε ανθρώπους. Έχετε και εδώ στην Αμερική ανθρώπους οι οποίοι ασχολούνται με κάποιες περιοχές. Αυτοί θα σας δώσουν και δρόμους. Να βρείτε δρόμους στην Ελλάδα. Να επικοινωνήσετε με άτομα στην Ελλάδα. Ακόμα και αν δεν μπορείτε να έρθετε στην Ελλάδα, μέσα από τις επικοινωνίες μας, όχι μόνο από email, αλλά και με απευθείας εικόνα, είτε με βιντεοκλήσεις και οτιδήποτε, να μιλάτε απευθείας με άτομα εκεί, να μπορείτε να δείτε κάποια πράγματα και τουλάχιστον όταν θα επιλέξετε την εικόνα να είναι, θα ξαναεπιμείνω, να είναι από τον τόπο και να είναι και από τους ίδιους τους κατοίκους, όσο γίνεται. Όχι από χορευτές που μπορεί τυχαία να είναι εκεί.
She says if one area does take your interest and you want to search, yes, YouTube is a good source. However, you can reach out to the local people, or if you don't have that connection, you can reach out to people here in the U.S. and they will give you that pathway to get to those people in Greece that you're looking for, and you can communicate with them. Now there's, you know, technology like video calls, so you can get a better picture of what's done in that area. And it's important to get a picture from the locals, not somebody from the outside. Not that's playing as an imposter, but let's play in quotations, playing as an imposter as a local, dancing in the local dance group that might not be from there.
Επίσης είναι πολύ σημαντικό να διασταυρώσετε αυτά που βρίσκετε. Δηλαδή, να μην βρείτε μόνο μία πηγή, να διασταυρώσετε πολλές πηγές έτσι ώστε να φτάσετε στην αλήθεια με αυτόν τον τρόπο. Είναι κουραστικό, ναι. Θέλει δουλειά, ναι. Θέλει διάβασμα, ναι. Θέλει πολλή εξάσκηση, ναι. Έχει κόπο, αλλά έχει και χαρά. Γιατί μέσα από αυτή τη διαδικασία θα νιώσετε κι εσείς καλύτερα, θα μάθετε πράγματα, θα μπορέσετε να τα προσφέρετε με χαρά στους χορευτές σας και θα το διασκεδάσετε. Άρα τολμήστε το, σε όλα τα επίπεδα. Χορέψτε, ακούστε, διαβάστε.
And that final thing, she said, it's very good to cross-reference everything. It's important to always have multiple sources. She knows it's a tiring and it needs a lot of work and a lot of time and dedication, a lot of reading and a lot of practice. But all this a lot of work also is very rewarding. It'll make you feel better, make you feel more confident, teach what you're teaching, and it will give you that happiness to present that stuff to your dancers. She said, dance here and read.
Thank you, Sarando and Arena. Just to keep the program moving on, to go to our final part about research is what everybody is asking about is their research submissions and what to include in that. So you'll notice a lot of the same things are going to be said again. However, I think it's a comforting thing that this portion was done by myself and Judge Jordan Elrod, who's the judge coordinator at HDF, Sarando, who's done first-hand research, and Rena, who also has done first-hand research, are all giving pretty much the same accounts, which should give some solace that this information is pretty accurate and important. So there was 3 questions that came from the director's survey, and these questions were mentioned multiple times. The first one was, what do I include in my portal submission and or additional research? Well, I'm not going to answer that one because hopefully by the time I finish talking, you have that answer. But the second one, does the judging panel know everything and all the materials presented? The fact of the matter is no, and they never will, okay? And I think anybody that has spent time in the Greek dance world will say that, okay? That this is a endless cycle of knowledge, and it's a continual learning process for everyone. So with that, it's imperative to make your research concise yet specific so that they can accurately look at your suite through the correct lens, because they might not have had the exposure that you had to it. And the third question, does the judge panel read or view what is submitted? As Rana just said, yes, they do. And just a fun fact, while all of you are having fun on Thursday at HDF, that's what we spend all day doing, is going over it as a group after everybody's individually looked at it. So just to dive in, what is research? It's funny, when I started working on this with Jordan, I laughed, okay? And I thought about, I actually was working on a research paper with my 8th grade nephew. And I was like, it's funny how many things are actually in his 8th grade rubric that are what we're talking about here. So this is the actual definition of research. It's a meticulous and systematic inquiry process designed to explore and unravel specific subjects with precision. The methodical approach encompasses the thorough collection, analysis, and interpretation of information, aiming to delve deep into the nuances of a chosen field of study. Well, with that, I think we've kind of said all of that. We know our chosen field of study, that is Greek dance, and specifically the village or dance that we're looking into. But I want to highlight on 4 key words that are going to guide the rest of this conversation: specificity, precision, analysis, and interpretation. So with I can never say this word. I can never say it. That word.
Specificity.
Okay. I know. So it's important to stay on topic and be as specific as possible. An explanation of the region is okay. Like Rena said, history can be important, but it needs to have, for your submission, needs to have context as to why it pertains to certain dances, why the instruments are used, why the custom is being done. Adi is sitting here in the audience and shaking his head because he knows, because we've seen so many submissions where the first literally 10 pages are written, it's like a copy and paste of every known fact from Wikipedia, okay? That's great and all, but let's try to make that a little bit specific and important, yet concise, and really focus on the details of what makes it relevant. If the population is relevant to your dancing, include it. If it's not, I don't really need to know that there's 312 people that live in Vindaloful. Okay. So a history lesson is not, I've made this, okay. So precision. Sarado said this too, but multiple sources are key for a precise understanding of a material at hand. So it's the same thing that you learned when you were in school, okay? Sources can include books, dance teachers, seminars, village locals, family members, common video links. However, it's important to corroborate those sources and to have multiple sources in your research. Don't use one source as your sole source for information. Jordan had this little comment, I thought it was funny, saying that my yaya says is relevant information, but we all love your yaya, but we need to know the information from your yaya should be substantiated with other testimonies or sources, because you are building a case. The purpose of the submission for research at HDF is to present a case to us and to showcase what you are presenting. Again, as we said, nobody knows everything about dance. Dance is not black and white. There's a lot of gray and subjectivity. So the more sources and precision, the better. Coming to the third part of our definition, analysis. Okay, we have to refer back to commonalities and substantiation, again, from multiple sources. Ask questions. Ask questions when you're looking at these things. Make sure the information you're looking at is relevant to materials and contributes to the suite you're trying to present. Think about what kind of questions the judges might ask if they were watching that, what the audience would ask if they were going to watch your suite. Make sure those things are communicated in what you're writing. And delve deep into the nuances of your source material. Dance is very gray, but it's also very defined by minute and small details. So make sure you showcase those. Finally, interpretation. It's important to demonstrate your written research and performance on how you've interpreted the information that has been collected. Again, be concise and specific to what you're presenting and show the relevant information. Your interpretation is what you're putting on stage. So we need to know what your interpretation is of that material so that we can appropriately give you constructive feedback. YouTube, our favorite topic when it comes to research. So I think YouTube, Rena said it perfectly when she spoke earlier, is YouTube is a great source. It is a great thing that we have in 2024 where we have access to essentially unlimited, almost an infinite number of researches and material. However, the question is you need to understand what you're looking at. So the analysis of collection materials is key when using YouTube. So I wrote 3 questions up here that I think that people should ask when they look at YouTube. Is this submitted of a dance group performing or locals dancing? If you don't know that answer, you need to figure that out because, for example, Sarando spoke about a lot of these geese. A lot of these geese might present dances from, let's go with, we're sticking with Vindaloful. We're going to say Vindaloful, but the dancers could be from a dance group in Athens. Okay, so is it the most authentic source that you're looking at? The second question, is the dance group from the village presented or somewhere else? That's, again, if it's a dance group. And who is dancing in that video and under what context, okay? The context is very important. You know, there could be a dance performance where another village is a guest and being hosted by another village to do dances, and you think that the dances are from the village of where the event is hosted, and they're doing something completely different. So it's, and you would be surprised how often that happens at HDF. So for written supplemental research, so for those of you that do not know, directors are probably aware, there's 2 ways to submit research at HDF, okay? First of all, you're required to write something in your HDF portal when you put all of that information in there, which I'll discuss that in a minute. However, many of you provide written supplemental research, which is totally acceptable. It's due before HDF, I don't remember the date, but it's due to give the judges enough time to thoroughly go through it and read it. So if you're going to provide supplemental research information, which this year at HDF, I think we had a record amount of supplemental information that was sent, make your written information detailed yet concise. Include references and multiple sources of what you're claiming. If you have interviews or videos, use clips of the interview to affirm the claim that you're making. You can make a private YouTube page and have your videos on there where the links aren't open to the public, but you'll have them in your written research so that we can access them and the judges can access them to affirm the claims that you're making. Same thing with referencing videos. Do the same thing and cite all of your sources. At the end of it, let us know where you're getting the information from. Think back to 8th grade when you wrote that MLA style research paper where you had to do a works cited page. Put the sources at the end and what you're referencing for all these things. Okay, it's imperative. For the HDF portal additional info submission, there's 2 questions that are on here. What sources did you use for your suite, and where and how long did you research? Okay, those are very vague questions. If you don't have enough information to write an additional supplemental piece of information, don't do it. Use these fields in the portal to state what you need to state. It's not required to submit additional research. So I know we've spent a lot of time talking about research, but I want to stress that it's not required. If you're going to submit something, make it relevant, make it impactful and value. So essentially in the HDF portal, you should follow the same guide for supplemental material, just in a more concise manner. And just fun fact for all of you that'd like to know HDF, the judging panel actually can access that in real time while your suite is being performed. So if you have a nice, concise thing on there, it's actually very convenient to look back and re-reference while your group's actually performing. So just in summary, be specific and precise as it pertains to your presentation. Tell the judging panel what you are dancing and how you are dancing it. Provide relevant information to the interpretation and demonstration of your suite. Provide multiple corroborating sources. Attempt to preemptively answer or even take away questions you believe as a judge, director, or the audience would ask. And most importantly, I will end my little saga here with one statement. Closed mouths do not get fed. So please ask for help. Ask fellow directors, instructors, judges, any questions. We all sat here and talked an hour about research because we want to be here to help you all. So please, if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us. We'd be more than happy to help you. I guess. All right. I guess we'll take a few questions, right? Is this the question point? And we had some submit while I was talking.
Definitely questions. And then while we're gathering that, Harry, did you want to get up for a second? Harry had something on. Yeah, this is on perfect lead-in actually to what Harry has. Introduce yourself too. Let us know who you are.
All right. So, hi. My name's Harry Kutramanis, and I'm the director for Philodoxia in Charlotte. And I just wanted to share really quickly, I won't take very much time, just something that I did for our final round set this year. We actually printed out a QR code and attached like a really short PowerPoint. It was maybe like 6 slides, I think. And basically what we did on it was we listed out each one of the dances that we did and kind of what was happening in our set, and sort of just walked through very briefly with like what was going on or specific things to look out for. It kind of goes back to your question actually on like if you're a novice person kind of coming to HDF and you don't understand what's going on, like how can I understand what's happening in these sets? How can I judge what's good and what's bad? This was kind of the solution that I came up with, was being able to present my research to the rest of the audience, not just the judges, just so that they could sort of see, okay, here's, like I listed out a bunch of different videos and said, okay, for this dance, here's an example in the Horyo of this dance being done. And then they could watch that video of the dance and then look at our set and they could decide for themselves whether they thought that was correct or incorrect. And it's a good way for everybody to learn too. Because I think a lot of times we watch a group perform a set and then we say, was that right? Was that wrong? Was this piece of what they did correct or incorrect? And it's kind of a way that I think we can all look at these performances and sort of make decisions on whether or not we thought groups actually did a good or bad job portraying their research. I mean, you obviously have to be open to sharing your research to do something like this, but I personally think that that's a big piece of what HDF is sharing our research and helping everybody else to learn as well. So yeah, I mean, hopefully this is something that rather than like printing out QR codes, it could be done through like the app or like put the QR code up on the, yeah, put it up on the screen. Like, I'm sure there's much better ways to do this than what I did, but yeah, save the trees maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this was sort of what I came up with. So anyways,
Awesome.
just a thought for everybody.
Thank you so much, Harry. And he did. He printed out those QR codes. We get gifts. Thank you so much. It was awesome. Was there someone? Did you raise your hand? Come to the mic, Miss Chloe. You've never shied away from the mic, ever. Please introduce yourself, Chloe.
Hi, I'm Chloe, for anybody who doesn't know me. Awesome presentation, team. So, Sarado, to your point, I just wanted to let everybody know, like, don't sleep on, I mean, this was obviously great, like, first-hand research, second-hand research, all the research. But one thing that kind of stuck with me is when I first joined Threelos in 2013, like, you would give us your research and be like, yo, this is why we're doing what we do. So it made sense to, like, this is why we're dancing this dance, this is what this song means, this is what this ethimo means. So when I decided to kind of jump on the bandwagon to be a director, Greek is not my first language, for anybody who doesn't know that. So I actually took, when I did my Karamanlidika show, which was a whole thing, in 2017, I actually reached out to Patty League, who's one of the musicians at HDF, in case anybody doesn't know him. He's fantastic. And I was actually hooked up with the Turkish language department at Long Island University, who was able to translate my songs for my suite, which then I took back to my group, which made more sense as to why we were dancing what we were dancing. So for my very first year directing, I did a Thasso show, and I wanted to do the guide the traditions of the island, and my research took me to Dr. Kim Sanders, who unfortunately passed away, but he was one of the only people in the world that had guide the traditions on tape, and he wasn't even Greek. But I'm just saying, I would just bring all this up to say, like, yes, having like the Greek connect is great, but don't be afraid to like reach out to people in the USA and Canada. Because now with social media, like you were saying, we're all more connected, and like there are other people from other ethnicities, nationalities, other cultural groups that are researching Greek dance, and it all kind of is gonna help do what we do. I just want to say that, that's all. Okay.
That's such great points, Chloe, and actually totally takes me back, Chloe, to being on a cross-country flight to FDF and reading Sarado's 17-page show notes for us as dancers. I took that. I think I fell asleep, but it was really good. It was really good. Anyone else? Stavro, have you checked online? Are we good? Yeah, you have to say it in the mic here, yeah.
Sorry. So, just a quick question. Let's say that you're doing research and maybe you wanted to portray a set that's from like the 20s or the 30s, where there's maybe like 2 or 3 videos. How would you say we go about that? Because obviously you don't want to just base your stuff off one video, like you were saying. But at the same time, like, you're going to be limited naturally by what you're going to come across. Do you just go with like the earliest dated research in addition to whatever you might have found that you can find, and then sort of just try and reconcile differences you might see between those? Or do you sort of primarily base off of what you've seen? Just because I think dance changes a lot as you go across time. Like, each decade's very different. So I don't know if you guys have a thought on that, but.
I think Rena would Όχι, λίγο θέλω κάποιες λέξεις να καταλάβω. Ναι, θέλω.
Πώς θα συγκρίνεις το 1920 με το σήμερα? Να καταλάβουμε, να πάρουμε
δύσκολη ερώτηση και δύσκολη απάντηση. Δύσκολη ερώτηση, δύσκολη η απάντηση, αλλά ενδιαφέρουσα ερώτηση. Λοιπόν, η υπάρχουν πηγές. Ευτυχώς κάποιοι άνθρωποι προλάβανε και βρήκανε ανθρώπους που ζούσαν σε αυτή την πιο παραδοσιακή κοινωνία και καταγράψανε πολλά πράγματα. Σιγά σιγά πολλές από αυτές τις έρευνες πλέον γίνονται ψηφιακές και θα τις έχουμε στα χέρια μας. Η ΕΡΤ έχει ένα πάρα πολύ πλούσιο αρχείο, το οποίο από ό,τι ακούμε πλέον σιγά σιγά μπαίνει σε μια σειρά, θα γίνει ψηφιακό και θα έχουμε πρόσβαση σε κάποια πράγματα. Πολλοί άνθρωποι ήρθαν στην Ελλάδα πάρα πολύ νωρίς. Θα αναφερθώ στο Τζο τον Κρατσιόζη. Ο Τζο πολλά χρόνια πριν είχε έρθει στην Ελλάδα και έχει καταγράψει πάρα πολλά πράγματα. Και είναι ένας άνθρωπος που είναι πραγματικά δοτικός. Ότι του ζητήσει σου το δίνει. Και αντίστοιχα και στην Ελλάδα υπάρχουν άνθρωποι που ήταν πολύ κοντά σε όλο αυτό, έχουν καταγράψει κάποια πράγματα και επίσης κάποιοι που ήταν και κοντά στην τεχνολογία, έστω και με εκείνες τις παλιές τις κάμερες, έχουν καταγράψει ανθρώπους από παλιά. Που έχουν αναφορές σε αυτές τις χρονιές, γιατί μπορεί τότε να ήταν νέοι και να προλάβανε παλαιότερους και να τα μεταφέρανε τουλάχιστον σε ένα μεγάλο ποσοστό αυθεντικά. Αυτό θέλει να ψάξιμο. Θέλει να βρει τους κατάλληλους ανθρώπους. Και αυτό το κάνεις ρωτώντας. Ο ένας θα σε οδηγήσει στον άλλον. Είναι αλήθεια ότι πολλές φορές οι άνθρωποι που έχουν τη γνώση δεν αυτοδιαφημίζονται. Πρέπει λίγο να τους ξετρυπώσετε. Είπα πολλά.
So she said it's a difficult question and has a difficult answer, but it's a very good question. She said there are various sources because some people did get there in time and found those people that were living during those times and documented their dancing back in the day. A lot of the researchers, a lot of this research is now going to become available through ERT, which is a channel in Greece, a government, state-run channel. And they have a huge archive of these dances and of these videos, and they will be made available to the public, hopefully pretty soon, is what she's hearing. Many people came to Greece back then, a very long time ago, people like Joe Graziosi that most of us know, and has documented many of these things and these older dancers. And he's one of the few, not one of the few, but one of the people that's very willing to give his research to people if you ask for it. She said many people in Greece were also very close to this stuff and have documented those old, I guess those old timers, and were good with technology back then, even if it was a cassette phone or an old video camera, and were younger back then, so they were able to catch the yayadas that were born, let's say in the 1800s. And that gives you that authentic feel. It also takes a lot of time to find these kind of videos and these sources. You know, it takes a lot of questioning, and one person will lead you to the next person, and eventually you'll get to that information. And a lot of these people that have this material don't self-advertise themselves, so it's kind of hard to find them.
Πιστεύω όμως ότι όταν σας ενδιαφέρει μία περιοχή, θα βγάλετε άκρη. Φτάνει να ασχοληθείτε σοβαρά. Αυτό που είπα πριν, ότι ρωτώντας θα φτάσετε στην πηγή. Δεν θα σας δυσκολέψει στο τέλος, στην αρχή λίγο. Μέχρι να... κάτι είπε ο Σαράντος στην παρουσίασή του, ότι πολλές φορές πολύ καλές πηγές είναι και η μουσική. Η μουσική μπορεί να σας οδηγήσουν σε κάποιους ανθρώπους που είχαν πάρα πολύ καλή επικοινωνία με τους χορευτές. Και έτσι ώστε να σας δώσουν μία επικοινωνία μαζί τους και να μπορέσετε να δείτε κάποια πράγματα. Επίσης, αυτό που παρατηρείτε τα τελευταία χρόνια είναι κάποιοι μελετητές που δεν είχαν πολύ καλή σχέση με την τεχνολογία. Τα παιδιά τους ή και οι ίδιοι αργότερα, αρχίσανε πλέον να κάνουν αναρτήσεις, είτε στο Facebook είτε σε διάφορες σελίδες και με βίντεο από παλιά. Έτσι ώστε εκεί μπορείτε, δεν ξέρουμε σε κάθε περιοχή μέχρι που μπορεί να φτάσετε. Έτσι, δεν είναι πάντα όλα τόσα παλιά βίντεο, αλλά θα σας δω, όσο πιο βαθιά μπορείτε να φτάσετε, τολμήστε το και ρωτήστε και ενημερωθείτε και πραγματικά υπάρχουν άνθρωποι στην Ελλάδα που ανάλογα την περιοχή, αν τους προσεγγίσετε, θα σας δώσουν και υλικό, όσο παλαιό μπορεί να έχουν και επίσης θα σας προτείνουν να βρεθείτε και με άτομα, είτε απευθείας είτε διαδικτυακά, που θα σας δώσουν και άλλες πηγές. Εμείς πάντα είμαστε στη διάθεσή σας για ό,τι θέλετε, έτσι ώστε να σας οδηγήσουμε σε κάποιους ανθρώπους που θα σας βοηθήσουν ακόμα περισσότερο και θα μπορούν να είναι σοβαρές πηγές. Τώρα αναγκαστικά πάλι θα αναφερθώ σε μια εποχή που είχαν επηρεάσει τα χορευτικά, τα ελληνικά, η σύνδεσή τους με το εξωτερικό. Η εποχή που άρχισαν να πηγαίνουν τα γκρουπ τα ελληνικά σε φεστιβάλ στην Ευρώπη. Εκεί γίναν κάποιες αλλαγές για να γίνουν πιο αρεστά αυτά που δείχνανε στο εξωτερικό και το περάσαν και στην Ελλάδα. Επομένως, κάποια πράγματα που θα δείτε στο YouTube μπορεί και να μην είναι απαραίτητα αυτό που πρέπει να είναι. Θα αναφερθώ σε ένα παράδειγμα στο Δρυμό. Όταν κατεβήκαν να χορέψουν κάτω στην Αθήνα, παρασυρθήκαν από όλη αυτή τη διαδικασία και αλλάξανε χορούς, νομίζοντας ότι έτσι θα τους κάνουν πιο ενδιαφέροντες. Τώρα, εγώ έχω ακούσει από άτομα εκεί πως ντρέπονται για εκείνη την εποχή. Δεν θέλουν να τα βλέπουν. Επομένως, θα μιλάτε με τους ανθρώπους. Δεν θα στέκεστε μόνο στην εικόνα. Γιατί θα σας πούν αλήθειες. Γιατί πλέον στην Ελλάδα όλοι κάνουμε την αυτοκριτική μας και διορθώνουμε πράγματα που γίναν λάθος στο παρελθόν.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the last thing she said, this is, I believe that, well, this is a long time ago. Okay, so she said she does believe that a region will inspire you. If you are inspired by a region, you will have when there's a will, there's a way. You will get to the well, the picadi, I guess, and I guess to the information that you're looking for. It might be difficult at the beginning, but then it does get easier. She did say musicians are a great source because they have a lot of communication with the dancers and they can help show you some things and give you a different perspective. Some other things that she's seen in the last few years is that people that didn't have good touch with technology now do, either with daughters or sons or whatever, grandchildren that have a better touch with it, that they are now starting to digitize their research and uploading stuff to YouTube and Facebook, and they're sharing this information. She said if you reach out to people in Greece and approach them, they will give you, most of them will give you whatever you want and connect you with other people that have more information that you're looking for. She said we are always at your disposal and we can give you great sources. She said that she's going to give you back, she's referring back to a back time period where dance groups of Greece used to travel to festivals in Europe, and that these dance groups would change dances to make them more appealing to the eye, more entertaining, where they would lose that authenticity of it. Kind of like what we do here with our Greek festivals. We add flair to our dances. She said one example was a village in Drimo, which is outside of Thessaloniki. That dance group went to Athens, and they changed their dances to make them more appealing to the performance. And now she talks to those people, and they were embarrassed what they did back then because they did not present their dances authentically. She said it's important to not just stick to the video. But what was the last part, Timasa? Το τελευταίο που είπες, Timasa? Yeah. Don't just stick to the video. Talk to the people that will lead you to the right sources. It's important to just not just get the visual, but to also get information behind what you're seeing. And to also to touch base on your question as well is, it's the full picture. So you see the 1920s. Yeah, you see people dancing 1920s to 2000s. You see a huge difference. It's the full picture. And it's not that if you want to present a 1920s suite, essentially you want to present what is the most authentic thing. So the more older is probably going to be the more authentic. I mean, that's just how it goes. Like if you go now, for me personally, you go to Pendalofo and you go to the Panigiri, no one's going to dance their sirto like they used to dance it. Now it's that generalized sirto sikatisto. So that older stuff is going to be more accurate. I would base it off that. But you can't base it just off one video. It's a whole picture, right? Yeah, those videos don't, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What?
Pictures.
Yeah, pictures, yeah. 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 He's right. Any other questions?
Arakova, duh. So first off, this was my first year instructing. So this presentation, all presentations were amazing. It was very informative. I remember sitting in the library with both John Michael and Janula trying to figure out what to put in this portal for the research. Like we had no clue. So this was extremely helpful. But flipping gears, our question is, we've gone through the portal, we've read our comments, and we're just trying to now go take the next step. So a couple comments, with the judges. What is the best way to interpret them? I mean, I know they're each person's opinion, but when you have comments that, one judge says, oh, you did this great, and then the other one, the opinion's a little different. How can we learn from that, and how do we know which direction to go? Does that make sense?
Yes. What I would say is that, comments are written in a 10-minute time span, so a lot of times they're concise, and during the course of the performance, yes, in fairness, they do go back, but the original thoughts are written seeing something in 10 minutes. Okay, so a lot of times they're concise, maybe not. Sometimes they don't translate exactly what was trying to be said. But one thing about all the directors I can say at HDF is they are willing to, sorry, not directors, judging panel, y'all know what I meant. The judging panel at HDF is they are willing to take a phone call or an email. And I know Stacy, she probably hasn't done it yet because they did just release everything today officially, but she will send their contact information for every single director, reach out to them. They could judging directors, judging, whatever. Reach out to the judges. They will have they have access to your performances. They will go back and reference it, and they will give you more in-depth information. And they can also lead you to more sources. Like we said, not all judges know everything. There will be some judges that are more comfortable with your material than others, and I guarantee you they'll be honest and transparent with that.
And I mean, for us, we're looking at it as, we're looking at more so like we want to learn.
Right.
And we want to know to do it correctly in the case we use the set or something similar, the years to come.
Well, and for that's kind of a purpose of comments in the first place, and that's why we try to place the most focus on comments as opposed to scores, because scores are a very arbitrary number that you don't really understand. But comments are important, but the comments are just the beginning. The conversation goes way beyond that. If you're interested in getting more information and expanding that knowledge or research or using them as a resource to expand further, just think of your comments as like a starting point. But that it's just a continued conversation going forward. So, Stacy, we'll get that out pretty immediate for everyone. Yes. Oh, the judge lady.
Κάθε κριτής έχει τη δική του άποψη. Αυτό που πρότεινε ο Σταύρος, να επικοινωνήσετε μαζί τους, είναι σημαντικό. Γιατί μιλώντας μαζί τους θα μπορέσουν να σας πούνε, να σας εξηγήσουν τι είναι αυτό που γράφουν. Αν από τον καθένα πάρετε έστω και τόση γνώση και δείτε με διαφορετική οπτική κάτι και θα σας βοηθήσει να κάνετε το επόμενο βήμα, είναι υπέρ σας. Άρα, μην σταθείτε μόνο στα σχόλια. Επικοινωνήστε, να σας εξηγήσουν τι ήταν αυτό που σκεφτότανε, μπορεί να σας δώσουν ένα βίντεο, να σας δώσουν μια πληροφορία παραπάνω. Θα σας οδηγήσουν στη γνώση. Επομένως, θα διευκρινίσετε την απορία σας, αλλά και παράλληλα μπορείτε να βρείτε κάτι που δεν το είχατε εντοπίσει. Είναι πολύ σημαντικό να έχετε επικοινωνία με τους κριτές, έτσι ώστε να λύσετε τις απορίες σας.
Okay, she was saying every judge has their own opinion, and communicating with them is very important. They can explain, if you talk with them, they can explain what they are saying and what they wrote and what they meant by their comments. Don't just stick to the comments. They can maybe explain that stuff through a video or even give you more detail, not only answering your question, but giving you more information that you are seeking at the beginning.
So this question came in from the YouTube stream. It's not exactly related to this, but I think it is important. It says, is there any discussion of creating a page on the HDF website with videos from older HDF seminars, in essence, a resource that our HDF family can use to begin research and learn new material?
It's not anything that we're currently discussing, but it's a great idea. It's something that would, I know Lenny hopes, she's not here today, she usually comes to the forum. I know she'll be here this weekend, and she has a ton of archives from the way past. It'd be a bit of a job, but I think it's a really nice idea. One thing we are doing a good job of archiving as we go along are these forums. So if you're watching on YouTube, or if you go back and watch it, you'll also see an entire playlist of the past ones. So those are some really great, it's not dance videos, but there's a lot of great information, and that's accessible to anyone. So yeah, it's a great suggestion. We'll definitely kind of put that in the bucket. Guys, I think that gets us to the end. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rerena and Anna, Stavros, Sarado, all of you at home that are watching and maybe will watch eventually. Here in Charlotte, if you're close enough, come tomorrow if you're not planning on it. We're going to have a great day of workshops, an amazing Galendi tomorrow night. So we look forward to it, and we thank you again. Good night.
Okay.